Action. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
So this video is a little bit different to what we usually do on this channel. Normally it's about travelling and experiences, but basically we got scammed 44,000 baht, which is 1,000 British pounds, a couple of days ago in Bangkok, and we thought it was just too important not to bring this up on the channel, because if it helps just one person who comes to Bangkok, then it was worth it. We're going to be talking about exactly what happened and how you can prevent it happening to you in the future. We're not going to be mentioning any names or any company names in this video.
We were coming up to one of the last 3 days that we had in Bangkok, and we decided that we were going to make this a temple day. We were going to go around and see as many of the temples as we possibly could in this one day. We decided we were definitely going to see the Grand Palace and the reclining Buddha statue. We looked on Google for directions and we found that we needed to get from Allot station to a station called Samyang. So we managed this without a problem. We used the metro service and we used the Sky Rail, and we got there with no issues. The first thing that happened was when we left Samyang station, I pulled out my phone to look at my GPS, and almost immediately this very, very smart and respectable looking man came up to us and started speaking to us in very good English to try and give us advice on the city. You know, he was asking us where we were from, how long we'd been in Thailand, if it was our first time here, and asked us where we wanted to go.
The first thing he asked us was where we wanted to go first, and we said we want to go and see the reclining Buddha first, and he said immediately, it's closed at the moment, there's a ceremony going on, so you'll have to, come back in about 2 hours and it should be open by then. And we thought, great, somebody's actually helping us. He seemed really interested. He pulled out a map. He started saying, have you ever been in a tuk tuk before? And we actually hadn't been in a tuk tuk, but it was something that we wanted to try whilst in Thailand. So it all just kind of mixed together in this chatty, fun, helpful kind of way. And he said, okay, well, how much do you think a tuk-tuk driver would charge you to go around and see the temples for two hours? Obviously, we've no idea. We've never been in a tuk-tuk before, so I think we said something crazy like 800 baht or something, and obviously his eyes lit up. But we didn't want to be rude either, so, and he was like, no way, usually it's 500 baht, but today I can get you a tuk-tuk for 200 baht for 2 hours, and he'll take you around all the temples, and he'll wait for you outside the temples, he'll take you to each one, and it'll be, a great day, and you can come back last to the reclining Buddha. It sounded great, didn't it? It sounded really, really good.
One thing he said during this whole thing was that there was a company called the TAT, which was a government company, and he circled their office on the map, and he said, you must go here. He said, today is a public holiday, and the government are taking taxes off people's holidays, so at this moment in time, you can get very, very good deals on travel trips and things like this. And he said if we had gone to this office, that we would be able to get a lot of money off of any trips, and that they would be able to organise the whole thing from start to finish, including transfers and hotel accommodations and boat journeys and anything that we needed doing, this company or this government organisation would be able to sort out. So we believed him. He told us that he worked for the museum and he was in the tourist information, and we were standing right outside the museum, and
he even had a name tag on, to be honest. He looked very official. We thought this guy's just being really, really nice. We let our guard down. We genuinely think people in all countries are nice people, and we're very trusting people by nature.
And a little bit naive.
And a little bit naive.
So he then described that there is a way to tell if a tuk tuk is one that is sponsored by the government or not. So he said to us, he came up with this whole spiel about how if you look at the colour of the number plate on a tuk-tuk, the yellow tuk-tuks basically have their fuel subsidised by the government and the white ones don't, and that's why the yellow ones can charge lower prices. And so he took us to this tuk-tuk and waved one down, and the second he stuck his arm out, the tuk-tuk pulled up, and he went and spoke to the tuk-tuk driver in Thai, and to begin with, this tuk-tuk driver was saying, 400 baht, and they laughed and giggled and talked it down to 200. And we thought, amazing, he's just saved us, half the money that we would have spent. We metaphorically shook his hand, jumped in the tuk tuk, and that was it. On our way we were.
Just to mention as well, before we got in the tuk tuk, he did actually circle quite a few locations on the map, and he went through those locations with the tuk tuk driver. Another location that he'd circled was this place called Thai Fashion, and he was telling us that you can get a really cheap suit, made of cashmere, and it's the suits that they make for Armani and all of this. Hugo Boss, and it would be very cheap today again because of this special promotion. And looking back on it now, it sounds ridiculous.
It sounds so far-fetched.
But when you're in the moment and it's hot and you just want to get going, we knew we didn't want to buy a suit. We're traveling for 12 months, so we definitely didn't have a use for a suit. But we didn't want to be rude either, so we didn't want to say no, flat out no, we don't want a suit, don't take us there. We wanted, to be shown around, but we didn't feel at that point pressured to buy anything.
He actually told us as well that it was a museum and that we could go and look at the suits, and sometimes you can see them being made and things like this. So that was kind of appealing to us, but not the idea of buying a suit.
So anyway, we get into the tuk tuk, and honestly I had a great time in the tuk tuk. He was driving super fast, the wind was blowing, our glasses were flying off, the masks were all over our face.
There was an element of danger.
In case you were wondering about safety features on a tuk tuk, there's no seatbelt, and in terms of doors to hold you in, there isn't one.
But it was so much fun, genuinely, probably the best part of the whole thing. Flying around Bangkok, looking, out to the side, and there's daily life going on. It was really great. And we stopped at the first temple, and the tuk-tuk driver told us, this is a lucky Buddha, and he was going, lucky Buddha, very beautiful. He was like, I'll wait here for you, and we thought, this is amazing, it's almost like a private tour. And I think in my head, I thought, I'm gonna tip this guy because he's been really nice, he's been smiley and happy and jokey and just really involved with us and looking after us. So we got off anyway, and we went into this temple, we took our shoes off, and we started staring at this beautiful, big, golden, standing Buddha. And a couple of minutes went by, and we were being very respectful, we weren't really talking, we were just standing and staring and being as respectful as possible. And we were approached by another man, and I don't know, what did you think? I thought he actually worked there.
Same. He looked very official once again, in really smart clothes. He was in a nice shirt and pants, and once again asked us where we were from and just struck up conversation, and we actually hit it off. We were talking to him for a good 10 to 15 minutes about our experiences in Thailand, where we came from. He asked us which football team we liked, but we don't like football, so we didn't really get into a conversation about that. He asked us what we did back in the UK. He told me first that he was a teacher, and then I struck up the conversation saying, funnily enough, back in the UK I was a teacher as well. And yeah, we just seemed to have a lot of things in common, and we just hit off this conversation.
He was very, very charming, he was very well dressed, he spoke very good English, but he really did want to know what we were doing that day, and he saw the map in our hands, and he asked to look at the map, and I didn't think anything of it. We'd been talking for about 5 minutes or so at this point. He looked at the map, and he was pointing to the locations.
And one of the first things he said was, you do realise that the reclining Buddha statue is closed until 2:30 today. We thought, oh, well, there we go. The first guy must have been telling the truth, because here is another man in a completely separate location telling us exactly the same thing. And then he also saw, he went, you've got the TAT office written down. He was like, great. He said, there's these great promotions on. They'll give you great advice, and that you should definitely go and visit them. But then he also did point out the Thai fashion and said, yeah, you do realise they make all the suits here. And at the time, I just thought that he was somebody who was really proud of his city and was genuinely trying to kind of show us all the tourist spots that people go to. I don't know why, but I just believed him. And I thought that this was just him trying to show us a good time in Thailand.
I just want to point out that I did notice that there was a monk in the temple, and he seemed to be praying. And looking back on it now, I can't help but think that was such a terrible thing for that man to do, to scam us in such a sacred place in front of such sacred people. And that's actually quite upsetting that someone would put themselves inside the temple to scam people like that. So we got back into the tuk tuk, and you know, he was building this rapport with us. He asked us if we wanted any water. So Andrew left the tuk tuk just across the street, got some water because it was really hot.
I even offered him a bottle of water.
Yeah, you know, we were building up this relationship, and got back into the tuk tuk, and he then drove us to this TAT office, and we were greeted at the door by a man. We were led directly to a desk, sat down, and again this guy had this charm about him, didn't he?
Yeah, he was a lovely fella, really chatty, laughing all the time.
Yeah, chatty, asking things, but he didn't speak for that long at first. He said to us, "Where do you want to go?" Straight away, as if he already knew what we had told the other people, somehow. And we said, okay, you know, we were thinking about going to an island, but we don't know which one, and we're not sure yet. We might want to stay in Bangkok for a little bit longer. And he was saying, why do you want to stay in Bangkok any longer? You know, how long have you been here? And we said, well, we've only been here 4 days, and there's a lot to see. And he was like, no, you don't want to spend any more time in Bangkok. No, no, no. And we were like, okay, maybe there isn't much else to see. And he said, oh, you want to go to this island here. I don't want it to be like a lot of like tourists. I want it to be quiet and local. No partying, no late night bars or anything like that. So he pointed out an island to us and we agreed on it. So the plan was we were going to get an overnight train from Bangkok to a city down south. And then from the city down south, we were going to get a ferry to this island. And we thought, okay, you know. And he starts typing into this big calculator like this. He's not looking at a screen, he's not looking at a computer.
At first, I didn't actually think it was a sale. I thought he was just helping us to plan a trip. I thought he was just giving us information and telling us the best way for us to do it.
Yeah, I still didn't feel pressured at that point to say yes. I thought he was just, again, being a friendly person who was gonna tell us a way to get somewhere and give us some recommendations. You know, I didn't feel pressured at that point at all to buy anything.
No.
But I couldn't help but think in the back of my head that this was all going very, very fast, and he was getting his numbers randomly. You know, we didn't see anything on a screen, no like booking.com or nothing like that, you know, nothing normally that you would see in a travel agent's. So anyway, it happened very, very quickly. He said, this is what you'll do, and blah, 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 and this is how much it'll cost. And he turned a piece of paper around to us and it said £490, British pounds. And I thought, actually, that's not too bad, you know, for 2 people, that sounds like an okay price. You know, we've travelled quite a lot, we've stayed in hotels, we've done transfers and things. I thought, yeah, I suppose that, you know, from the top of my head, without looking at anything, that's okay.
And this was for a 12-day trip, which included the sleeper train down south, the ferry over to the island, the accommodation on the island, a ferry back onto the mainland, and then a flight up north to Chiang Mai. So it was a fairly condensed trip with a lot of elements that needed booking and organising.
I thought, well, £490 for both of us, that's okay. But then instantly he was like, no, that's each. And I looked at Andrew and I thought, it's a bit out of our daily budget. You know, we do have quite a tight daily budget. We do like to spend a little bit more sometimes if we've been sleeping in like hostels and things, but it all gets worked into our daily budget so that we can do this for as long as possible. And it was definitely outside of our daily budget. And then obviously that was all worked out without tax, so then he added on the tax. And again, in the back of my mind, I thought, well, what's this tax when we're supposed to be getting these offers and things? So anyway, I looked at Andrew and I thought, and I remember whispering to him, do you think this is a bit much? You know, for 12 days, it's outside our budget. When you're in the moment and it's hot and, you know, looking back, we do feel really, really stupid and we should have trusted our gut. But like I say, when you're in that moment and everything's happening around you, and their demeanour changes very quickly. You know, they're very good at what they do. They've been doing this for a long time, and
I think that I was almost willing to accept this, which we realised was a little bit too expensive for us, but I think I was willing to accept it because it's a lot of work planning all of these little individual bits, and I thought to myself that it would be nice to have somebody else organise all of this for us so that we just had to kind of relax and go on this trip. And he sold it to us in a way that made it all seem very easy and as though everything would be sorted for us. We'd be picked up here, we'd be dropped off there, and everything would just be done.
So anyway, at some point we obviously agreed, and he said, okay, come back in an hour and I'll have all the paperwork. But before we left, he asked for Andrew's card.
Yeah, he said to me, can I see your card? I didn't really think much of this, but he got the card and passed it to one of his workers, who disappeared for about 3 or 4 minutes and then came back with a receipt. And I was a little bit kind of dubious at this point, because they didn't ask for my PIN number at all, and all of a sudden I had this receipt and a payment confirmation. So we left the TAT office feeling a little bit sick to our stomachs at this point.
We felt like we'd really been pushed into something that we didn't want to do. But at the same time, we didn't want to be disrespectful. Maybe the trip would be worth it. You know, at the end of the day, like Andrew said, we didn't have to organise anything ourselves, but we just couldn't help feeling like something just wasn't right. So anyway, we got back into the tuk tuk. It was very quick. There was no talking after he said, you know, come back in an hour and, you know, we will sort out the tickets and things. There was no talking after that. It was like we were escorted out the building. The door was open, the tuk tuk driver was there. So we got into the tuk tuk and we didn't feel as comfortable, or we didn't feel like we were having as much fun as we did at the beginning. So then, you know, after a couple more temples, he took us to this Thai fashion place. In the back of my head, I thought it would be like, you know, like a mall or something where you could go and look at some suits and just have a look around and have a good time, you know, like a shopping centre or something. But it wasn't. It was this tiny little store, and we went in, and again the door was open for us like he was expecting us. We went through the door and there was this Thai man who greeted us, and immediately, he didn't even say hello, he just said, what suit do you want to buy? We're on holiday, we don't want to buy a suit, you know, we're travelling for 12, but he did not want to know. All he wanted was for us to buy something.
And he got quite forceful with us. The second we said we didn't want to buy a suit, he said, okay then, buy a tie. And I said, I don't want to buy a tie. And he said, it's buy one, get one free, just buy a tie. And I said, I don't want a tie. He said, fine, get a belt, just 500 baht. And I said, look, I don't actually want to buy anything. We were just brought here by the tuk tuk driver. I don't know why we're here. He just brought us here. The second he knew that he was definitely not going to get a sale from us, he became very rude and almost aggressive.
He did, yeah.
To the point where he started to tell us to just get out the shop.
He just said, get out, and I just didn't know what to do at all. You know, I felt really vulnerable. We were the only 2 people in the shop, well, 2 customers in the shop, and you know, I was trying to just be nice and say, well, you know, we'll look around. And he was like, there's nothing to see, it's a factory, just get out. So we went to walk out the door that we'd come in at the front, and he basically ushered us towards the back door where we went out again, where the tuk tuk driver was waiting for us, as if he was expecting us to go in the front and go out the back. So I didn't know what to think at this point. I had a really bad taste in my mouth. Something just didn't sit right with me at all. And I thought, well, maybe this is a little bit weird. Maybe it is just a touristy thing. You know, they're trying to get money out of tourists by taking them to different destinations. But I thought, it's okay, we stuck to our guns, you know, we didn't buy a suit, and I don't think we were, you know, impolite at all during the whole visit to the suit shop. If anything, he was extremely rude towards us and quite forceful. So anyway, get back into the tuk tuk, go and visit some more temples, and eventually after an hour, we went back to the TAT office. And again, the door was open for us, straight in, straight down to the desk. No hellos, no welcome backs, nothing like this. And on the desk was a receipt flip book. And he said, before anything, you must sign this. And looking at it, it just looked like receipts for different things like the transfers and the boats and the hotels and things. So anyway, Andrew just starts signing and he flips it, and Andrew signs it and he flips it, and it sounds so stupid now, looking back.
But we saw the print afterwards that said non-refundable on every page that I had signed, which was once again, the second I'd done it, another red flag that made my heart sink when I'd signed them. But I kind of thought, you know, we're stuck at this point. I've just signed these documents, and we have still got this holiday booked. You know, that was the only thing that all I could think of in my head was that yes, we've overpaid for this trip, but we've still got this trip, and at the end of the day, money comes and goes, and we just need to kind of put it all out of our heads and enjoy the trip that we have coming up. And so I didn't think much more of it. He gave us all of the paperworks and folded them up into envelopes and labelled them all very efficiently so that we had them all like number ordered as to what we needed to do and when. And we got up, shook his hand, and left the shop. We were sent back into the Tuk Tuk, who started to drive down the road again, and he said, now I will take you to the floating market. You can take a very nice river cruise. It'll take you all around the river in a big circle. And we were like, no, we don't want this. We
were actually really hungry at that point. All we'd had was breakfast. The sun was going down. We didn't really want to spend any more money after just spending £1,000 on this trip. So we politely declined. We were like, no, sorry, you know, we don't want to. And he did, you know, he completely understood. He said, okay, you know, so he said, I'll take you to another place. So we're like, right, okay, you know, there can't be that many places left on the list, so we'll just go with it. And he took us outside this other store, which looked like a suit shop again. And he said, just go inside and look at the catalogue for 5 minutes. And I was like, no, you know, I think that was the point where I was like, no, I don't want to look at a catalogue, you know, I want to go to the reclining Buddha. I don't want to look at the catalogue for 5 minutes. And again, he was like, okay, started driving, and he was like, reclining Buddha, yeah? And we were like, yes, please, reclining Buddha. So anyway, we're driving, and we get to the reclining Buddha temple, and we get out, and he's not really saying anything to us at this point. He's not that friendly anymore. He's not really very chatty. Again, we don't know what the reclining Buddha temple looks like, so I didn't know if he'd taken us to another one, or if this was the end of the road, or what. He just didn't say anything. So we got out, and there was a bit of confusion. Is this the reclining Buddha? And he was just like, finished. So we get out the Tuk Tuk, and we said 200 baht, and he was like, yeah, 200 baht. So we gave him the money, and we went into the reclining Buddha. And it was actually a really nice temple. If you're ever in Bangkok, you should definitely go and see it. In fact, all the temples around Bangkok are definitely worth seeing. Obviously, just be a little bit careful of who approaches you. So anyway, we made our way back to the hotel, and you know, we still don't feel right. Something isn't right. Still can't get the feeling out of our heads that we've paid too much for this trip that we didn't really want to do. I'm just feeling a little bit down, and Andrew's just looking at the internet, and
I'm scrolling through an article about the best way to get about Thailand, and I happened to come across, maybe 3 bullet points down this article, a paragraph that is titled "How to Avoid the TAT Scam." And the second I read those words, my heart just dropped. I knew instantly that everything that had happened to us was a scam. And I'm reading through this article, and it is literally word for word like the exact story that happened to us, from the man that we met outside the train station, from him negotiating the Tuk Tuk price, from the story about the yellow number plates, you know, being dropped off at temples and somebody being waiting for you in the temples, and then once again the suit shops and the TAT offices. There are so many people that have been, you know, scammed by this particular system. And it wasn't until after this that we found out that the TAT is the Tourism Authority of Thailand, and is a government organisation that will not book trips or excursions for people. They are literally there just to offer advice to tourists in Thailand. And it was at this point that I emailed the tour provider instantly and asked to cancel our booking and to process a refund for us. And he responded almost immediately with, no, it's non-refundable, we cannot give you a refund. You can change some times and dates and things like that, but you can't get a refund. And I was frantically looking online at how to get our money back, because we discussed with each other that even if we couldn't get our money back, we would not take this trip, because we knew that everything was a lie, that we didn't trust these people.
Yeah, and what generally happens with these scams is they do all this, they're all in it together, they're all working together, they all get commission from each other, the more you buy in one shop, the more commission, blah, 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 all of this. It's all like this orchestrated scam, and they're all in it together, which is actually quite upsetting, because I thought we'd had a really, nice day, especially in the beginning when we spoke to those two guides. I thought they were just such lovely people, and that this place was amazing. But what generally happens is you will book this tour through this tour company, and it's nothing like they've shown you in the brochures. Not that we really saw any brochures, to be honest. You'll get there and it'll be a much lower quality hotel, and generally along the way on your trip, you'll be expected to pay more and more and more money, even though you've overpaid for the whole thing. So we knew we weren't going to go on this trip once we found out it was a scam, but we also thought we weren't going to get any money back either, so we really felt trapped. Like we had no choice, but we had to go.
First thing I saw was that you can try and claim what's called a disputed transaction with your bank. So I'm instantly on live chat with our bank, and they basically say that we have to go online and fill out a form. So I'm filling out this form, and I attach all the documents that we had, explain the situation, and then I read that it can take up to 75 days, which is too long for us really, but either way we still filed the form. And then I'm looking as well to see if there are any statutory rights to give me the legal right to pull out from the transaction, and there aren't really the same protections in Thailand as there are in the UK, but there is a company called the OCPB, which is the Office for Consumer Protection Bureau, and they can sometimes help. Then I read online from other people who've had a similar kind of encounter, that they've gone through the tourism police, and immediately I got on the phone to the tourism police, and do you know what, they were so helpful. They spoke good English, but she struggled to understand me at times. So she asked me to write everything down in an email and send it to them, which is what I did. And within 5 to 10 minutes of sending this email, we had a response back from them that said, what we want you to do is go back to the office that you bought the package, and we will send an officer to you who can help you resolve the situation. Now, the next day was a Sunday, and we had been told that the office was closed. So instead, on the Sunday, we went to do some laundry, and we decided we were going to go back to the tourism office on the Monday. But while we're doing laundry on the Sunday in a laundromat about 2 or 3 blocks away from us, I get a phone call from the travel agent, and he's telling me, he's like, Mr. Knox, you called the tourism police? And I was like, yes. He said, they're here now, and they said you must come immediately. So we're starting to panic, because there's an hour or so until our laundry's finished. We're a good hour or so away from this office, and we've got no way of getting there really other than public transport. So we said, no, we can't get there immediately, we can't. And he's saying, no, you have to, and saying that, I think he was trying to imply that they were getting mad. So we phoned the tourism police, and they were agreeing that we had to see them face to face that day.
And obviously we'd heard horror stories, we'd been awake all night reading about this scam and people's dealings with, people who are part of the scam, and also the Thai police. So I'm actually really ashamed of my preconceptions of the Thai police before actually having any dealings with them, because I couldn't be more wrong. I'm absolutely indebted to them and the people at the tourism police as well for what they did for us. They really fought our corner the whole time. They were lovely to us from the very beginning. They wanted to get our money back, as soon as possible. They told us that it was 100% a scam, and that we should try and get a refund, and that they were going to help us. but they really did want to see us face to face, and that was actually quite scary for us from what we'd read online, because there's a lot of bad rep online about the Thai police, and you know, we were already feeling quite vulnerable. So eventually we did agree to meet them face to face with the tour operator, but we wanted it to be at our hotel in a public place.
Before we did agree to meet with the Thai police, we were so close to dropping the whole thing, because we had read online once again about these stories of corruption in the Thai police, and we had heard these stories about how 95% of people who are victims of these scams never get anything back, and that the Thai police were useless in negotiating. So we were, at one point, when I was talking to the Thai police on the phone, I actually did say, look, I think I want to drop the complaint. And they were having none of it. They said, no, you must meet us face to face. And eventually they came out and said, it is 100% a scam. And the second they said this, I knew that they were on our side. And I said, okay, we can't get to his office, but we will meet at the hotel. So we agreed on an appointment time for 6 p.m. in the hotel lobby. And during this interview, he eventually agreed to give us 30,000 baht. We got back to the hotel and explained the situation to the hotel staff, who, once again, I cannot thank enough for the way they conducted themselves in this whole process.
Yeah, in particular, there was a man at the hotel where we were staying, and if he does happen to watch our videos, or if he ever watches this video, you know who you are. You were so kind, you know. I could not stop crying, you know. I was so upset, I was so scared and worried about what was going to happen. I think thoughts were going through our mind that we might be arrested for something, but we didn't know what, you know. We were just so tired and hungry and confused. And this man from the hotel, he was so comforting. He said, you know, I'll be with you. I'll help you get to another floor in the hotel where you can speak privately. There's going to be no trouble. He bought us water, and he just looked so concerned and upset for us. And it's just those little bits of kindness from local people that make your heart sing, you know.
He sat with us for the whole time that we were having the interview with the Thai police, or with the tourism police, and with this travel agent. And he was just there, he was listening to the story, he was shaking his head in disbelief as to what had happened. And another thing that really stuck out for us was when we had agreed with the police to go back to the office to get the refund. As we were in the elevator, before we got in the car alone with them, he personally took down both of their badge numbers, their identification, and their names, and it just made us feel that little bit more reassured that there were people there looking out for us.
So we go back to the tourism office, and it's dodgy, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
We walk in and it's definitely past closing time, if it was ever open on a Sunday, and there were a few people in there, you know, they all looked like locals. It was quite dimly lit. And, you know, we're escorted to the desk straight away. And suddenly, again, the story changed. He was saying, you know, we'll agree on, you know, 17,000 baht. And we were like, no, you know, you've told us we'll get 30,000 baht. That's what we've agreed on. We've come all the way from the hotel, about 30 minutes out from the hotel. You agreed 30,000 baht. You're already leaving with £300. And we're not getting a holiday, so we're out £300 for nothing. And he just wouldn't let it go, would he? It went on for about an hour. His boss came out. He was really quite aggressive man. He was quite a big Thai guy, and he comes out and he didn't look at us at all. He didn't want to even acknowledge us, his boss, but he was having quite elevated conversation with the police and with his employee, but he didn't look at us, he didn't want to look at us. He was obviously really annoyed, very angry. And again, I can't thank the tourist police enough, because they were negotiating in Thai on our behalf. You know, you could hear them, and they were keeping everything really calm, all level and professional, because it was quite a heated situation that could have got out of hand really, really quickly. You know, there were some very annoyed people in that office, especially annoyed with us, I think. And, you know, eventually, after an hour or two, I can't really remember, they eventually said, yes, okay, 30,000 baht.
But they also said that they would give us the 30,000 baht, but they would keep the plane tickets, the train tickets, and the hotel reservation, which they had previously agreed to give us so that we could try and claim that part of it back by ourselves.
So anyway, we eventually leave the office and the police are asking for the tour agent to come with us again to the police office, and he's like, oh my god, you know, it's not over and all this. He seemed really annoyed, obviously. His boss disappeared. He just walked off. We didn't see him again. Hopefully we won't ever see him again. So we're escorted out. We get like a private transfer in the back of the police car. And again, I just wanted to point out how nice these two police officers were. They were talking to us in the car about Thai cuisine and food and photography. You know, the policeman was a photographer. He was showing us some of his pictures, and it was just a moment of bliss in an unbelievable situation. You know, we felt really supported by them, and those moments, they just make you so thankful, and they just restore your faith. I should just mention, actually, on the way to the police station, the tourism police station, the tour agent was in the car with us, but they separated him from us, so we were in the back with one of the police officers and he was in the front, and he kept turning behind and he kept saying, you're gonna have to tell them that everything's okay now and that you're happy.
He said, make them happy, Andrew.
Make them happy, tell them you're happy, you know, it's gonna be a very bad day for me tomorrow in work with my boss. I'm in a lot of trouble. I've lost a lot of money. You must make them happy and tell them that you're happy, because we can't have police at the office again or it'll be very bad for me. So I did kind of feel bad for him still. After all this, I still felt kind of bad for him. I didn't want anybody to lose their job. I understand it's part of a scam, but I'm not a bad person. I don't wish for anyone to struggle. So I had this playing in my mind as well. We got into the police station, didn't we? And they just took it so seriously. I could not believe how serious they were.
Could
you?
No. We had 7 police officers in this room. There was 3 on the desk and 4 of them stationed besides us whilst we were all sat there. And when I first walked into the station, I felt a little bit intimidated, but as soon as they started talking to us, the atmosphere completely cleared. Like, it was obvious that they were there for us. They didn't care about this travel agent. They didn't care about his side of the story. They wanted our statement, and they wanted us to give as much detail as possible, because by the sounds of things, this is something that happens a lot, and they are so determined to end it in Bangkok. And with the amount of evidence and detail that we gave them, they seemed really, really happy and really impressed, because obviously with us filming most of our daily life, we had pictures of the temples, we had video evidence of the tuk tuk driver, and luckily there was a mirror at the front of the tuk tuk where the tourism police could actually get a shot of the tuk tuk driver's face. And they told me that with the footage that we gave them, they could actually charge him the next day. So
they wanted a full statement, and then they read the statement out in front of each other in English and then wrote it in Thai. They copied everything. We got a copy, they got a copy. And you could just see this, I want to say, this poor tour guy's face. He was just like sinking into the chair. And I will admit, I was completely and utterly honest with everything that I said, but I was hesitant to absolutely drag him through the mud. You know, I understand that he is part of a business, which is part of a scam, but he's obviously not the one running it. You know, he is an underling of his boss, and it's his boss ultimately that should be in that police office talking about what's happened, but he wasn't there. You know, he'd left his employee there.
One thing I will add is, whilst we were like 3/4 of the way through filling in this statement, another police officer came back in all of a sudden with the documents that we had been forced to hand back over to the tour agents. So we were given back the airline tickets, the train tickets, and the hotel reservation. And I'm convinced that the tourism police demanded that they gave those back to us so that we had a fair chance to claim a refund on them. And once again, that's something they didn't have to do, and yet they did. And it just goes to show how determined they are to fulfill their job and to make tourists in Thailand feel safe.
And actually, we went back to the train station today to book our tickets up north to Chiang Mai on the overnight sleeper train, and they did refund us.
And it makes us more confident that we may be able to get some of the money back from the airline as well, from the plane tickets that were booked. So if we can get back the money from the airline, then that's pretty much a full refund that we've been able to get back from this event. And it's been difficult, but it's been an eye-opening experience. We've learned a lot about ourselves and how we can be too naive and too trusting of people. And it's also kind of given us some red flags to look out for in Thailand and in other countries when we're traveling as well, because it's not just Thailand that things like this happen. This happens worldwide, and it's just made us feel more confident that we now know what to look out for and that we now will not fall into traps like this so easily.
Yeah, and my advice to end things is, if you are in Thailand and you're not sure about something, anything at all, just call the tourism police. You know, they're lovely. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they're waiting for your call. You know, they speak good English, they speak Thai as well, obviously. And if that person you're dealing with on the street is genuine, then they've got nothing to hide, and they'll let you call them. But if they're not genuine, I swear they'll leave before you even dial the number, because they know the tourist police are on your side. And well, I feel stupid for a start, but I do feel a lot wiser now, and that's obviously what travel does for you. You experience things, not all of them so good.
If we'd have seen that article before we went out, or if we'd seen any of the hundreds of videos there are out there about this topic, there is not a chance we would have fallen for it. We don't want this video to put anybody off coming to Thailand for 1 second. Thailand, from what we've seen of it so far, apart from this one isolated incident, is a beautiful country. The food is incredible, the weather is fantastic. You know, the people in general are so kind and considerate. And we've loved every second in Thailand. And even in this darkest of moments, there have been these pockets of like purity from the people that we've met.
Yeah.
And from the hotel staff, from the tourism police officers that we've dealt with, we've met the best and the worst of people in Thailand, and it's the good far outweighs the bad. So if you're considering coming to Thailand, do not let this put you off.
And obviously not all our vlogs are like this. Hopefully this is just a one-off and we won't have to do this again. A little bit older, a little bit wiser.
We also feel as though now that we have dealt with the Thailand tourism police, that we have this kind of safety blanket to fall back on. And if ever you do need to contact them, their number is 1155.
But please do be careful wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you in the next one.